Hi, welcome to One Acadiana's Candidate Conversation Series. I'm Keely McGivney, and this is Andre Bro here on the team at One Acadiana. You may remember Candidate Conversations from the last election cycle. We are back with interviews for Louisiana Public Service Commission District 2. The District 2 Public Service Commission seat represents Lafayette and St. Martin parishes, including 11 other parishes. And so we wanted to be sure voters in our region had a chance to get to know the candidates ahead of the elections.
That's right. And for today's chat, we're joined by one of the three candidates, Julie Quinn. Julie, thank you for joining us today.
Keely and Andre, thank you so much for having us and for doing these candidate conversations. I think they're going to be super helpful to the voter.
Well, let's just get started with the basics, Julie. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Okay, so I am a lifelong Republican, registered to vote at the age of 17, so I could vote for Ronald Reagan by the time I turned 18. I am a two-term state senator, two-term Jefferson Parish School Board, and 32-year practicing attorney in business law. So I represent businesses, small, medium, large, mostly local to Louisiana, but some national or out of state. And I've been out of politics since 2012, but ready to step back in and give my public service heart where it's always been, on the PSC.
Well, thank you for sharing. And now, can you share an overview of the roles and responsibilities of Public Service Commission or PSC members and what makes it such an important role?
It is probably the single most misunderstood elected position in the state and maybe the country, and one of the most important. The Public Service Commission is made up of 5 commissioners, so the district is now bigger than a congressional district, and it specifically regulates a very specific industry of utilities and energy. So that encompasses electric, natural gas, nuclear, renewables, coal, and any kind of energy, wind, solar. And so it's really on the forefront of the national conversation right now as to energy independence, keeping our rates low, how fast we use renewables. But the PSC also regulates water, and that's super important that we have healthy, safe, and clean drinking water. All of these, of course, I want to make a caveat, is non-municipal owned. So if you are served by a municipality that services or produces your water, or your electric in some cases, we would not regulate that. But anything that's not municipal owned, we oversee. And we even oversee pipelines, intrastate pipelines, the tariffs on those, and a few other miscellaneous things. But energy and water are probably primarily the 2 largest industries that we regulate.
Thank you. Looking from the outside in, what are some things you see the PSC doing well, and what are some things the PSC could improve upon?
So, believe it or not, Louisiana has either from the lowest to the third to the lowest electric rates in the country. They're doing that well. The reason that people's bill continues to rise, however, is because of the enormous pass-throughs for grid hardening. What we need to improve upon is how can we, by federal law, those improvements have to be passed on to the consumer. So the only way, in my opinion, to get around that, because we have to strengthen our grid, whether from terrorist attacks, third-party attacks, hackers, to just plain old hurricanes and tornadoes and storm damage, or even wrecks and squirrels, believe it or not, cause a lot of the power outages, if you can believe that. But in order for customers, for us to allow the customer to not have such skyrocketing bills because of those pass-throughs, if we could sell more energy on the MISO network, believe it or not, every time we sell energy, we have a network called MISO that acts as a third-party broker. So when we have excess energy, we sell it to other states. If we need energy, we buy it from other states. Louisiana typically has a good excess because we have such an abundance of natural gas, and other states need it so much. They're colder than we are. So I would like to see us step up our game in the terms of selling this electricity, because all of those profits, the electric companies do not get to keep those profits. They get passed on to the consumer as a credit on your bill. So that is one thing I think we could improve upon.
Thank you for your perspective. And to ask another question about your perspective looking in, what economic opportunities do you believe the PSC should be focused on?
So the PSC, believe it or not, has one of the most important roles in economic development in the state. And I think most people don't understand that. And even most businesses maybe don't understand that. What I mean by that is a large portion of any business's budget goes to electric, but in particular, major industry. So when you have a manufacturing or an industrial type plant, a disproportionate amount of your budget goes to your electric bill. And I have met with the major industry players. Some of them do move to Texas because the PSC was not fast enough or flexible enough to find alternative sources to allow them, whether they want to co-generate their own electricity or think outside the box. They have a lot of great ideas. They have something now called small nuclear reactors, which is turning off my phone. I apologize, it's dinging. They have some small modular reactors, which are nuclear power on the size of an 18-wheeler truck. So, for example, if the city of Lafayette, for example, or the parish of Lafayette, lost power due to a storm, you could bring in one of these 18-wheeler trucks and power most of the outages temporarily. So it's an amazing alternative source, but businesses can do the same thing by using these small modular reactors. So I'd like to see us explore a little more of the clean nuclear and relatively affordable nuclear energy. I do want to mention one other thing that's super important on the economic development front. There's something called the Magnificent Seven, which is things like Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, and a few others that are all building AI plants. And AI plants consume an amazing amount of electricity, the size of a city. So, for example, there's a small parish. When I say small, I mean not relatively populated parish that is poised to get one of these AI plants. But if it lands there, it's going to require the same amount of electricity and energy that the entire parish now requires. So the issue for them to land there is, are you going to be able to give us enough power, or are you going to be able to let us generate our own power? And that is strictly a function of the PSC. How fast can we approve their alternative sources, whether it's cogeneration or otherwise? That is something that the PSC is really poised to do on an economic development front in Louisiana. And the last thing I want to say about that, one of the reasons these AI plants are looking at Louisiana is because we have an abundance of natural gas and energy to begin with. We have abundance of water, which is needed to cool all the electrical systems. And we have an abundance of labor. These AI plants don't necessarily need advanced degrees, and they need anything from unskilled to moderately skilled labor. And we have an abundance of labor in Louisiana. So we are really poised to land a lot of these AI plants as long as we can provide them with the assurance that they can get the power that they need.
Well, thank you. After hearing some of your perspective on the PSC's work, let's say you are elected. What is one thing you would want to accomplish during your time in office?
Besides the big tenets that I just touched upon, which is, landing a big AI plant or two, and making sure that the Green New Deal isn't shoved down businesses' throats at an unattainable source. Just on a smaller scale, what I would like to see is I would like to see every electric company required to have a brick and mortar customer service center for the customers. I am tired. I call myself if I have a problem, but you have to get up at 7 a.m. and stay on hold and hope you don't get disconnected. There's nowhere to go any longer for many people. Some people still have a customer service center, but not many. So I would like to see a brick and mortar customer service center for electric. And the second thing I'd like to see is I'd like to see the cable companies fall under the regulatory authority of the PSC. They are unregulated and they are very difficult to deal with. The PSC has tried for years to bring them within their purview, but that is something that I would make a passion of mine.
Well, thank you. And to segue from that, is there anything else you'd like to tell voters about why they should choose you?
Well, I thank you for that question, because when you have three candidates, it's confusing. People are busy with lives. Like, what separates me? And I can only tell you, look at my number one, my voting record and who I am. My voting record is extremely conservative. I don't vote for taxes. I don't vote for what's popular at that time. Just because someone is in power, like a Democrat governor or a Democrat leaning Speaker of the House, I don't vote because it's the popular thing to do, or I don't want to offend somebody. I vote because right is right. I am not afraid to take a position that is a principal position. It is the right position. I have practiced law, actively practiced law for 32 years, practicing business law. So when there is a complicated issue, the PSC is extremely complicated. This is not for the faint of heart. This is not a side job that you want to take because it won't interfere with your main source of income or your business. This is something that's going to require a lot of study, attention to detail, and that is something that I have always done and I'm willing to do. My children are grown. I have all the time and energy to completely focus 100% on the PSC.
Well, thank you again, Julie. We really appreciate your time today to help the community get to know you. We have one last question. How can voters further engage with you and get more information?
So I give everyone my cell phone number because I think that speaks volume as who you are and how accessible you are and you will be. So my cell phone number is 504-994-5333. My website is votejuliequinn.com and my email is votejuliequinn@gmail.com.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, everyone. That was Julie Quinn joining us. She is a candidate for Louisiana Public Service Commission District 2. Julie, thank you so much for spending time to help the community get to know you, and good luck in the weeks ahead.
Thank you so much for inviting me.